Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to dive into what might be the most important skill you can learn right now, how to actually talk to an AI and get amazing results. So, have you ever felt like you and your AI are just lost in translation? You know the feeling, right? You ask what you think is a super simple question, you're expecting this brilliant, mind-blowing answer, and instead, you get something, well, something weird. Something that totally misses the point. It's so frustrating. But here's the good news. There's actually a science to getting it right.
See, the problem isn't that the AI is dumb. Not at all. The real issue is something we can call the AI conversation gap. It's that little, or sometimes huge, space between what you think you're asking and what the AI actually hears.
And let's just take a second to appreciate how mind-blowing these systems really are. I mean, they can generate text that sounds completely human, they can write and fix code, create unbelievable images out of thin air, analyze huge amounts of data, they can even summarize dense research for you. These things are incredibly powerful tools. But here it is. This is the absolute key to bridging that gap. You have to remember, these systems do not think like us. They don't have a consciousness, they don't understand things in the way we do. They are, at their core, world-class instruction-following machines. They will do exactly what you tell them to do, which, and this is the important part, isn't always what you meant for them to do.
So it follows, right? If the problem is bad instructions, then the solution has to be learning how to give great instructions. And that, my friends, brings us to what some call the art of the prompt. This whole skill is called prompt engineering. And I love this analogy. Think of it like you're working with a master chef. You wouldn't just throw a random bag of groceries at them and say, hey, cook something. No way. You'd give them a detailed recipe, right? Well, your prompt, that's the recipe you're giving to the AI.
Okay, so if you want the more, official definition, here it is. Prompt engineering is basically the process of designing instructions that are so clear, so well structured, and so perfectly optimized that the AI pretty much has no choice but to give you an amazing, high-quality output.
Okay, this is where we get into the really practical stuff. Let's actually break down the anatomy of a great prompt. I want you to be able to start building these yourself, like right away.
So, a really powerful prompt is built on what I like to call the 4 pillars. First, you've got clarity. Just be super clear with your instructions. Then, context. Give it the background info it needs. Next are constraints. You got to set some rules and limits. And finally, role. Tell it who to be. Seriously, if you can get these 4 things right, you are way ahead of the game.
And we can even turn those pillars into a simple, super powerful formula you can literally use every single time. It's role plus task, plus context, plus constraints, plus format. Let's walk through an example. So the role is you are a university professor. The task is explain quantum computing. Okay, but we need more, right? So the context is you're explaining it to first-year engineering students, so really focus on qubits. The constraint is keep it under 300 words and you have to use one clear analogy. And finally, the format. Present it as bullet points. You see how incredibly specific that is? There's no room for guessing.
And that's the difference it makes. A weak prompt, it's like a tangled mess. It's vague, it has no direction, and you're going to get a generic blah answer. But a strong, structured prompt, that's like handing the AI a perfect, clear blueprint. You're going to get a tailored, super useful response almost every time.
Okay, let's look at a side-by-side. On the left, you've got a super common prompt. Explain OOP. That's it. And honestly, that's a total gamble. You might get an explanation for a 5-year-old, or you might get a PhD-level thesis. Who knows? But look at the one on the right. It's structured. It specifies the audience, a beginner programmer. It asks for a C++ example. The difference in the quality of the answer you'll get is just night and day.
All right, so you've got the basic structure down. That's huge. Now, let's level up. We're going to look at a few more advanced techniques that can unlock even more power from these AI models. First up is something called zero-shot prompting. And honestly, this is what most of us do without even thinking about it. You're just asking the AI to do something without giving it any examples. Like translate good morning into Arabic. You're just relying on its massive built-in knowledge. And for simple, straightforward stuff, it works great.
But what if the task isn't so simple? That's where few-shot prompting comes in. With this one, you're not just asking, you're kind of teaching the AI on the fly. You give it a couple of examples to show it the exact pattern or style you want. So like, hello becomes bonjour. Good night becomes bonne nuit. So what does thank you become? This is amazing for getting a very specific format or tone.
Okay, this next one, this is a total game changer, especially for complex problems. It's called chain of thought prompting.
All you do is add a simple phrase like, explain your reasoning step by step to your prompt. By doing that, you force the AI to slow down and actually work through the logic instead of just jumping to an answer. It improves accuracy like you wouldn't believe for things like math, puzzles, and tough reasoning problems.
And finally, we have role prompting, which we touched on in our formula. This is where you literally assign the AI a persona. Act as an expert copywriter, or you are an algebra professor. And this isn't just a fun trick. When you assign a role, you're cueing the AI to pull information from a very specific part of its training data. This totally changes the tone, the style, and even the level of expertise in its answer.
So, you might be wondering, why does any of this even work? I mean, how does a machine that only understands ones and zeros actually hear what we're saying? Let's take a really quick peek under the hood to see what's going on.
Basically, it's a four-step process that turns your words into pure math. First, your sentence gets broken down into little pieces called tokens. Then, each token gets its own special number, like a serial code. After that, those numbers are turned into these really complex mathematical objects called vectors. And then, the AI's giant brain just looks for patterns in those vectors to predict what the next most logical piece of the puzzle should be.
So to make that a little more real, a word like explain might get split into X and plane. Each part gets a number, and those numbers become vectors. And this is why all this prompt stuff matters so much. A more detailed, structured prompt creates a clearer, more precise mathematical pattern for the AI. A clearer pattern, a better result. It's that simple.
So when you put this all together, what have you really learned? It's not just a few tips and tricks. You've actually learned the fundamentals of a whole new kind of literacy. You've learned how to speak to these powerful new systems. This is your new AI superpower.
And why should you care? Because when you get good at this, you get precise control over what the AI gives you back. That means better quality answers, way less of that frustrating trial and error, and you can even cut down on the chances of the AI hallucinating or just making stuff up. Now, one quick but important note. You got to be responsible with this stuff. Even a perfectly crafted prompt has its limits. These AI models have built-in safety restrictions, and they'll refuse to generate anything that's harmful, illegal, or violates someone's privacy, as they should. So let's wrap it up with this one big idea. The biggest barrier to getting amazing things from AI isn't the AI's intelligence. It's our ability to communicate with it clearly. And today, you've learned the language. You know how to talk to it. So the only question left is, what are you going to ask it to create?